Congresswoman Diana Voss doesn't even try to hide it. She stares at the 12-year-old black girl in seat 4 of the business class car like she's found something stuck to the bottom of her Louboutin, a small inconvenience that someone should have already removed. "Excuse me." Her voice is the kind that's used to rooms going quiet. "Why is this child in business class?" The girl looks up from her notebook, calm, patient. "Ma'am, my ticket is I don't need your explanation." Voss laughs a sound with no warmth in it at all. "You think I'm foolish, a child your age in business class alone? This isn't a school trip, sweetheart. You're in the wrong car." Zara Coleman, 12 years old, 4'10", says nothing. She's been taught what silence is for. But then the baby in Congresswoman Voss's arms, 11-month-old Eli, stops crying. Just stops. His head drops. His lips go from flushed pink to flat, chalky white. His chest barely moves. Eli Voss's voice cracks for the first time. "Eli, baby," she jiggles him. "Nothing," shakes him gently. "Nothing. Help somebody, help my son. Zara is already unbuckling her seatbelt. I can help him." Diana Voss looks at this child, this girl she just tried to have removed, and her face twists with fear and something uglier underneath it. "Don't you dare put your hands on my son." Her voice comes out raw and shaking. "Someone find a real doctor. Not a child who doesn't even belong up here." 8 minutes later, Congresswoman Diana Voss would be on her knees in the aisle of a moving train begging that same child to forgive her. 92 minutes earlier, Denver Union Station. 6:40 inches the morning. The Great Hall still smells like last night's rain, that particular mix of old stone and fresh coffee that hits you the moment you come through the main doors. Platform 7, the Lakeshore Limited departing to Chicago, begins boarding at 6:45. Zara Coleman stands in the boarding line with a charcoal gray backpack that's too big for her. She barely fills out the straps, but she doesn't mind. Her father's olive green field jacket, 2 sizes too large, hangs off her shoulders. She found it at the Goodwill down the street from their apartment 3 months after he died. She's worn it on every important day since. Inside that backpack, 3 bound research papers, a portable glucose meter, a letter on Comer Children's Hospital stationery, and at the very bottom, wrapped in a clean cloth, her father's medical journal. Brown leather, cracked at the spine from years of use. On the inside cover in his cramped handwriting, the answer is always in the details, Z. The boarding agent scans Zara's ticket. His eyebrows go up. "Business class, Han." He looks around. "You with somebody?" "No, sir. I have my unaccompanied minor paperwork." She holds out the folder. Neat, organized, tabbed. He studies it. Studies her. Studies it again. "University of Chicago Medicine paid for this." "Yes, sir. I'm presenting at a pediatric conference." It's all in there. He glances at the folder a second time, then at her face, then seems to make a decision. "Go ahead. Car 6, platform left. Business class on the Lakeshore Limited isn't quite like flying, it's better in some ways. Wide leather seats in pairs, warm amber, lighting a dining car that smells like real bacon at 7 in the morning. Zara finds seat 4 window side. She stows her bag, keeps the journal in her lap, and pulls up her tablet. The article she's reading, "Missed Diagnosis Patterns in Congenital Adrenal Hyperplasia, a 12-year retrospective study." Across the aisle, a man in a blue blazer glances at her screen, then away too fast like he'd been caught staring. An older woman, 2 rows back, adjusts her coat in a way that creates more distance between herself and, well, everything. Zara notices. She always notices. She tucks her feet under her and turns back to her reading. She's gotten very good at making herself smaller without disappearing. 10 minutes later, the chaos arrives on 2 legs. Congresswoman Diana Voss moves through the business class car like she owns the train company which, given her family's investment portfolio, she might technically have a partial stake in. Designer leather tote over one arm. Baby Eli screaming in the other. Phone pressed to her ear. "Stuart, listen, the Chicago event is a $40,000 a plate fundraiser. I don't care about the weather, I care that I'm on that stage at 7. Good. Because the Tribune is running photos and I need to be visible. Eli, shh. She bounces him mechanically the way you'd jostle a carry-on bag. What? Yes, I let Teresa go last week. Too much liability. I'll figure it out. She stops at row 4. Seat 4A, right next to Zara. Diana Voss's eyes land on the small black girl. Her expression doesn't change exactly, it just calibrates, adjusts to something lower. Excuse me. Crisp, precise. I think there's been a mistake. Zara looks up. Ma'am, this is business class. Yes, ma'am. Are you traveling with someone? No, ma'am. My guardian documentation is, where are your parents? A pause. Very small. My father passed away. My mother is in Denver. Voss tilts her head. So, you're alone up here. Not a question. More like a verdict. How interesting. The University of Chicago Medicine purchased my ticket, ma'am. I'm presenting at the Pediatric Endocrinology Conference. Voss laughs, a short sound like a door slamming. A conference. At 12? Yes, ma'am. Voss turns, scanning the car. Excuse me, Attendant Nadia, the business class attendant appears almost immediately. Late 20s with the carefully neutral expression of someone who's learned to read passengers fast. Congresswoman Voss, welcome. What can There's been an error. This child shouldn't be in this car. I need you to get it sorted before we leave the station. Nadia looks at Zara carefully. May I see your ticket, hun? Zara hands it over. Clean, printed, time-stamped. Nadia scans it with her hand held. Once, twice. Her face stays professionally still. Congresswoman, this ticket is confirmed business class, fully purchased by the University of Chicago Medicine Research Office. Everything checks out. That is not possible, Voss's voice firms. Look at her. Does she look like a conference presenter to you? Does she look like she belongs in this? She stops. But the word she didn't say fills the space anyway. 2 rows back, Damon Reed, 42 Black Chicago Tribune investigative desk, has been reading the same paragraph of his book for the past 3 minutes. He closes it quietly, presses record on his phone, and sets it face up on the seat beside him. He's seen this before, too many times. Eli's crying reaches a sharper pitch. He arches his back. Voss grips him tighter, annoyed, and drops into 4A. Fine. She waves Nadia off. But if anything is missing from my bag, I'm holding the line responsible. She opens her laptop one-handed, and I'll need a Bloody Mary. I genuinely cannot handle this stretch of morning sober. Zara turns back to her tablet. In the window's dark reflection, she can see her own face, small and very still. Her father's voice steady in her memory. The room doesn't have to welcome you, Z. You still belong in it. The train pulls away from Denver at 7:03 a.m. The doors seal with a sound like the world locking itself around them. There's no turning back now. The train had barely cleared the suburbs when Voss started holding court. The man in the blue blazer introduced himself as a venture capitalist from Phoenix, said his name was Grant. Within 4 minutes of Voss's eye contact, he'd become her audience. I completely understand your frustration, Grant said, loud enough for the whole car. Standards in public transportation have basically collapsed. Business class used to mean something. Thank you. Voss's whole posture warmed. Finally, someone with actual perspective. She didn't lower her voice. A 12-year-old alone up here. We can all imagine how this happened. Some well-meaning charity, probably one of those programs that puts kids in rooms they aren't prepared for, takes a photo, calls it progress. She sipped her drink. Then the adults pat themselves on the back and go home. The rest of us deal with the reality. The older woman 2 rows back, Zara, had heard her name was Edna, nodded slowly. My granddaughter is 13. She would never be permitted to travel alone like this. It's not safe, Voss added. Who knows what kind of home situation produces a child in these circumstances? She let that sentence hang perfectly. Unfinished, perfectly understood. Zara's jaw set. 3 paragraphs. She read the same 3 paragraphs 4 times. Nadia moved through the car with coffee. She caught Zara's eye with a look that said, I'm sorry, I don't know how to stop this. Zara gave the smallest nod. It's okay. I've handled worse. Tell me. Voss turned, addressing Zara directly in the tone of someone conducting an informal interrogation. University of Chicago Medicine, was it? What exactly does a child do at a hospital? Alphabetize charts. Fetch lunch. Zara set her tablet down. I'm a junior medical researcher in the Pediatric Endocrinology Department. I study rare metabolic disorders in infants. Voss's laugh was louder this time. Grant chuckled, following her lead. A researcher. At 12. And I'm sure you're very gifted. The word landed wrong on purpose. Science fair. You're calling it research because it sounds more impressive. I've co-authored 3 peer-reviewed papers on infant adrenal insufficiency. 2 with my father before he passed. one independently published in the Journal of Pediatric Endocrinology last November. Voss tilted her head. Your father, the doctor. Yes, ma'am. How convenient that he's not here to verify any of that. Zara's hand moved under the table to her backpack. Her fingers found the journal through the canvas. He died 4 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. He was 41. Oh, I see. Voss adopted a particular kind of softness with no warmth in it. Well, that's a very moving story. But fabricating credentials using a deceased parent as a shield, that's actually a form of fraud, legally speaking. I sit on the House Judiciary Committee. I know the statutes. I'm not fabricating anything. Then, show me these supposed published papers. Zara hesitated. The copies were right there in her bag. The invitation letter. The co-author credentials. She could have laid every page on the seat tray and forced Voss to look at it, but she understood in that moment that this was never about evidence. Voss would find something to question, pivot to a new attack, and the goalposts would move again. This wasn't a conversation about truth. I don't need to prove anything to you, ma'am. Voss spread her hands at Grant. Did you hear that, Classic? She took a long pull of her drink. You want to know what I think actually happened? Some feel-good program bought you a ticket and you ended up here, and now you're sitting with your little notebook reading words you probably can't fully follow yet playing. Scientist. She paused for effect. That's not a research career, sweetheart. That's a field trip. The car had gone quiet. The kind of quiet that means everyone is listening and nobody is stopping it. Zara's eyes burned. She blinked twice hard. Let me teach you something about the real world, since apparently nobody has. Voss's words were getting looser. The seat you're sitting in represents a system that runs on preparation and merit, and, ma'am. Zara's voice had changed. Not louder, just different, an edge underneath it. Clinical. Ma'am, your baby? Don't you dare, he's not breathing right. Voss finally looked down at Eli. He wasn't screaming anymore. He was quiet. The terrible, wrong kind of quiet. His lips had drained from flushed pink to flat, chalky white. His chest was moving barely in fast, shallow flickers that looked more like flinching than breathing. His head had fallen to the side. One hand dangled loose, and there on his tiny wrist a medical alert bracelet caught the light. 3 letters engraved in silver. C-A-H. Zara's whole body went cold. Ma'am. Her voice was fully level now. When did Eli last eat? This morning? I don't know exactly, Teresa, usually. Does he take daily medication? He has some kind of... The pediatrician said it was manageable. There are prescriptions. Teresa handled all of Nadia. Zara was already unbuckling. I need the emergency medical kit. Right now. You're 12 years old. Voss's voice had gone high and strange. Your son has congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Zara reached across gently, fingers going to Eli's tiny wrist. That bracelet. You know what CAA means. Voss stared at the bracelet. Then at Zara. Blank. She doesn't know. She doesn't know what her own son has. Your nanny who quit. Zara's voice was careful, not cruel. How long ago? 5 days. But I didn't. He seemed fine. I didn't think. He's been 5 days without his stress doses, probably dehydrated from the dry station air, and he may be fighting an infection. His adrenal glands are shutting down. Zara's voice went completely steady the way it does when knowledge takes over from fear. This is Addisonian crisis. If we don't treat him in the next 8 to 10 minutes, his heart will stop. The business class car went so silent you could hear the rails. Diana Voss looked at this child, this girl she'd spent 30 minutes trying to have removed from her presence, and every wall cracked at once. Help him! The words came out barely above a breath. Please, please help my son. Grant spoke up. Congresswoman, you can't seriously be... Shut up, Grant. Her voice broke on his name. In the back, Damon Reed leaned slightly forward. His phone kept recording. Nadia sprinted back with the red emergency kit. Zara was already laying Eli across 2 seats, one palm flat on his sternum counting, pulse thready racing, breathing rapid and shallow, each breath costing something he didn't have left. Skin mottled and cold. She opened his mouth. Mucous membranes dry as paper. Heart rate over 180. Blood pressure critical. Severe dehydration. She looked up at Nadia. Is there injectable hydrocortisone in this kit? There's. Let me. Nadia dug through quickly. Pulled out 2 small vials. Solucortif, for asthma attacks. 100 milligrams each. That'll work. Zara was already doing the math. Roughly 10 kilograms going by length and age. Stress dosing modified for severity. I need a clean syringe, an alcohol wipe, and the conductor on the radio. Tell them we need paramedics at the nearest station. Pediatric transport. Addisonian crisis. 11-month-old male, approximately 10 kilograms CAH patient missed doses at least 5 days. Nadia grabbed the car phone. Voss stood frozen in the aisle, hands at her mouth. Zara pulled her father's journal from her bag, not to read, just to set beside her. A touchstone. The answer is always in the details, Z. She drew up the hydrocortisone. 25 milligrams. The dose she'd calculated across 49 case studies, simulated 100 times on paper, never not once on a real patient. Her hands were shaking. She was 12 years old. What if she was wrong? The thought came and went in one clean second. She let it pass. Her father's voice steady and clear. Your hands can shake. Your mind stays steady. Trust the work, Z. Zara found the injection site on Eli's outer thigh. Wiped it clean. The entire car held its breath, 8 adults watching a child do the one thing none of them could. This is going to help you, she said quietly to Eli and no one else. She pushed the needle in. He didn't flinch. He was too far gone for that. Slow plunger. Steady hand. She withdrew, applied pressure, checked the time. 8:21 a.m. Hydrocortisone administered. 25 milligrams intramuscular. She opened a packet of apple juice from the snack bin Nadia had grabbed, dabbed a few drops on Eli's lips. A little sugar to the blood. Come on, baby. Stay with us. The train's PA crackled. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be making an unscheduled stop in Le Mans in approximately 14 minutes due to a medical emergency. Emergency services are being notified. We apologize for the delay. The next 4 minutes were the longest of Zara's life. She kept her fingers on Eli's wrist, watching his lips, watching his chest, counting. At minute 3, a slight deepening of breath. At minute 4, color beginning to return to his fingers. At 4.5, Eli made a sound. Small, groggy protesting. The sound of something waking up. Voss made a noise like she'd been hit. She reached for his hand. Nadia touched Zara's shoulder. He's pinking up. I see it. Zara's voice stayed quiet. She didn't celebrate. Not yet. The train slowed. Limon, Colorado, a small eastern plains town, little more than a water tower and a grid of streets appeared outside the window, and on the platform paramedics. Moving fast. They came through the car door at a run. Where's the patient? Here. Zara stepped aside. I administered 25 milligrams hydrocortisone intramuscular 4.5 minutes ago. Patient is 11 months. CAH. Diagnosis. Salt wasting type. Missed doses at least 5 days. Signs of Addisonian crisis, dehydration, probable hyponatremia. The lead paramedic, her badge read Ochoa, stopped and looked at Zara. Who are you, Zara Coleman? Junior medical researcher, pediatric endocrinology, University of Chicago Medicine. Ochoa looked at her partner. Something passed between them. IV kit, she said. He moved. Pediatric line glucose drip. Finger stick. Within 60 seconds, Eli had an IV running. Ochoa pressed the glucose monitor to his fingertip. 39. Severely hypoglycemic. D10 would help, Zara said. Ochoa looked at her, this 12-year-old girl with a cracked leather journal under her arm and shaking hands and a completely steady voice. Yeah, she said. D10. She glanced at her partner. She's right. They lifted Eli onto the gurney. His color was coming back, breathing full and even now. Ochoa turned to Zara one more time. You bought him time. She held out her fist. Good work, kid. Zara bumped it. They wheeled Eli out. Voss followed, then stopped. She turned around, looked at Zara for a long, raw moment. Thank you. Just 2 words, barely more than breath. Then she was gone. Business class sat in stunned silence. Then Grant, the venture capitalist who had laughed along with every ugly thing Voss said, cleared his throat. He looked at his shoes. I owe you an apology. I was wrong. I'm sorry. He said it quietly, and it cost him something, and Zara could tell. Edna was crying openly, her travel pillow pressed to her chest. Sweetheart, I am so ashamed. We should have listened from the very beginning. I'm sorry. Zara stood very still. She was staring at the empty seats where Eli had been, still warm, still shaped with the indent of a small, sick body, and she could feel her legs threatening to give. Nadia appeared beside her. "Come, sit down, hun." She guided Zara back to seat 4. Zara dropped into it, her whole body shaking, now the adrenaline cashing out all at once, leaving nothing but aftermath. 12 years I've been working trains," Nadia said softly. "I don't have words for what you just did." Zara looked at her hands, still trembling. Damon Reed walked up and crouched beside her seat, measured quiet. "I'm Damon Reed, Chicago Tribune." He held up his phone. "I recorded everything. From the moment Congresswoman Voss started in on you to the paramedics taking Eli off the train. I want to publish it, but I need your permission first. I don't want to be famous." Zara's voice was tired. "I just want to do the work. I understand that." Damon didn't push. "But here's what I need you to know. 3 months ago, Voss voted against expanding the children's health insurance program, called it a budget problem. Said families were working the system." He paused. "She sits on the appropriations subcommittee that controls pediatric research funding. She has a track record of cutting exactly the programs that would have gotten kids like Eli diagnosed before a crisis. That would have given families without private specialists a fighting chance. He let that land. And the girl who just saved her son's life is a 12-year-old black researcher from Denver who she tried to remove from this car because of how she looked." Zara was quiet for a moment. "Will it help other kids? Kids who get written off before they ever get to speak?" "Yes." "Then okay." She looked at him steadily. "But tell my dad's story too. Tell my mom's. Tell people why this matters, not just what happened, but what it means." Damon extended his hand. Zara shook it. "Deal. If you've made it this far, hit that subscribe button. These are exactly the stories we're here to tell." An hour into the resumed journey, Dr. Simone Okafor appeared at the end of the business class car. 56 Nigerian-American close-cropped silver hair, the posture of someone who'd spent 20 years operating under fluorescent lights. She'd been in the quiet car 3 sections back working when word filtered through the train about what had happened. She walked straight to seat 4. "Zara," she corrected herself, smiling slightly. "I was going to surprise you at the conference." "Then you surprised all of us first." Zara's eyes went wide. "Dr. Okafor, you're on this train. Same conference. Quiet car, row 12. She sat across from her. "What you did back there was resident-level emergency medicine. It's just what my dad taught me. He taught you well." Dr. Okafor studied her. "But I noticed something. Before the injection, you hesitated. Doubted yourself." Zara looked down. "I'm 12. I've never treated a real patient. What if I was wrong? What if I—" "But you weren't. I might have been." "Yes," Dr. Okafor said, direct and not unkind. "You might have been. And you chose to act anyway with 49 reviewed cases and 3 peer-reviewed publications behind you. The only variable you underweighted was your own knowledge." She leaned forward slightly. "The world has been telling you that you're too young, too small, too something, and part of you started to believe them. Today you proved every one of them wrong." She paused. "Don't let that part of you win again." Zara was quiet. Dr. Okafor reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. "I was going to wait for the conference dinner, but you've earned this early." Zara opened it. Comer Children's Hospital letterhead. University of Chicago Medicine. "Dear Zara N. Coleman, we are honored to name you the inaugural recipient of the Marcus A. Coleman Award for Excellence in Pediatric Research. We are further pleased to offer a full merit scholarship to our Young Scholars Medical Training Program beginning fall 2027, including a $45,000 annual research stipend." She read it twice, then a third time. "Your father's name on the award," Dr. Okafor said softly. "That was my idea. I hope that's all right." Zara pressed the letter to her chest. "He would have cried," she said. "He would have absolutely cried. So am I." Dr. Okafor smiled. "So am I." Outside Chicago was still 6 hours away, but for the first time all morning the world outside the window looked entirely different. 2 hours into the resumed trip, Nadia sat down beside Zara during a quiet stretch. "Can I ask you something?" Nadia's voice was careful. "You said your dad was a doctor, pediatric endocrinology, at Denver Health, Public Hospital." Zara pulled up a photo on her tablet, the two of them in his white coat, Her maybe 8 years old, grinning so wide her eyes disappeared. Dr. Marcus Coleman. He was the one who first figured out the early warning pattern in Ka infants, the one I've been building on. He sounds brilliant. He was. Zara's smile faded slowly. He got sick 4 years ago. Pancreatic cancer stage 4. Caught too late because the hospital couldn't afford proper imaging equipment. He'd had symptoms for months, kept putting off his own tests, too busy saving other people's kids. She paused. When they finally diagnosed him, there was nothing left to do. He was gone 6 months later, 41 years old. Nadia pressed her hand over her mouth. The worst part, Zara continued, is that 3 months before he died, he applied for a research grant. He wanted to build low-cost diagnostic screening for adrenal disorders, tests that rural clinics could use community health centers, schools, catch Ka before it becomes a crisis. Educate parents in places where there's no specialist within 100 miles. She paused. He wanted to make sure no family ever had to watch what almost happened to Eli on this train. What happened with the grant? Zara opened her backpack and pulled out a document carefully folded. Denied. The foundation said it didn't align with their funding priorities, that any research they backed had to have a viable path to commercial development. Patent potential. She handed it to Nadia. Saving kids in poor communities didn't show a strong enough return on investment. Nadia read it. Her face went white. At the bottom of the page, the foundation letterhead. The Voss Family Foundation for Medical Innovation. Congresswoman Diana Voss. Board member. The woman who denied funding for research that could have saved her own son was the woman whose son Zara had just saved. Nadia looked up. Zara. I know. Does she know? About your father, no? Zara took the letter back, folded it carefully. Not yet. The train hummed on through the Illinois cornfields, flat and gold under a February sky. The Lakeshore Limited pulled into Chicago Union Station at 2:47 p.m. Zara's phone came alive the moment she turned it on in the Great Hall, that cavernous space of marble and pale winter light, pigeons circling the upper windows like something out of an old film. 63 missed calls, 190 text messages. Damon had posted the video at 9 a.m., just after leaving Limon. Caption: Congresswoman Diana Voss, who voted against expanding children's health insurance 3 months ago, calling it a budget problem, spent 30 minutes trying to have a 12-year-old black medical researcher removed from business class. Then watched that same child save her infant son's life. This is what contempt looks like. This is what grace looks like. Her name is Zara Coleman. By the time they crossed into Iowa, it had 11 million views. Every major outlet had picked it up. Zara's face was on screens in every terminal shop, every news bar, every lobby in the station's atrium. A CNN anchor mid-sentence, Congresswoman Voss has released a statement calling the incident inexcusable and offering what she describes as an unconditional apology. Eli Voss is reported stable and in pediatric intensive care at Northwestern Memorial. Political analysts say this may be the most damaging. Turn it off, Dr. Okafor said quietly. Just for now. Zara powered down her phone. They were halfway through the main hall when she heard her name. Zara. Zara Coleman. She turned. Diana Voss was crossing the marble floor at a near run. She'd been there for 2 hours, apparently, waiting. She still had on the same clothes from the train. Her hair had come half down. Her mascara was ruined. She looked nothing like a congresswoman. She looked like a mother who'd almost lost everything and was not yet sure she hadn't. A station security officer stepped forward. Ma'am, you can't. Zara, please. Voss reached her, breathing hard. 5 minutes, please. Zara stood still, looked at her. Doctor. Okafor's hand settled on her shoulder, not pushing, just present. You should be with your son, Zara said. He's stable. The team, they told me to find you. Voss pressed her hands together. They said your diagnosis was exact. Your treatment was exact. They said, if you'd waited 3 more minutes. Her voice broke. They said you knew more about his condition than I did. The echo in the hall made everything bigger than it needed to be. Voss said very quietly, I didn't know what Ka was. Zara waited. His pediatrician explained it at his 6-month checkup. Said it was manageable. Gave me the prescription list. I hired Teresa to handle the medication schedule. I never learned. She looked at Zara. There was always something more urgent. A vote, a call, a fundraiser. He's had this diagnosis for 5 months and I couldn't have told you what the letters stood for. Your nanny quit 5 days ago, Zara said. At the station, you told the attendant you didn't know when he'd last eaten. You didn't know his medication schedule. You didn't recognize the signs of adrenal crisis even after a months-long diagnosis. Voss didn't flinch. You're right. You didn't know because it was easier not to. Easier to delegate. Easier to stay on the phone. Yes, barely a whisper. All of it. People were stopping. Phones coming out. I stood on that train and treated you like you were less than nothing, Voss said. I looked at you and saw everything I was raised to dismiss. And then you saved my son anyway with knowledge I didn't have and care I hadn't earned from you. Her voice dropped. I was wrong. I was wrong about every single thing. Zara was very still. The worst part isn't even what happened on the train, Voss continued. The worst part is that I didn't change because I wanted to. I changed because a video went viral. Because the world was watching. And that is, she stopped. That's exhausting, Zara said quietly. Having to save someone's life just to prove you deserve to be in the room. Voss's face crumpled. Zara opened her backpack. She pulled out a piece of paper. Institutional letterhead dated 4 years ago. Standard rejection language. We regret that the proposed research does not align with the Foundation's current funding priorities. Projects must demonstrate a viable path to commercial development and patent potential. At the bottom, the Voss Family Foundation for Medical Innovation. Board member, Diana Voss. Voss's hands began to shake as she read it. My father, Dr. Marcus Coleman, Zara said. He died 4 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. Diagnosed late because the public hospital where he worked couldn't afford proper imaging equipment. He was 41, she paused. In his last healthy months, he applied for funding to develop low-cost diagnostic screening for adrenal disorders. Tests any clinic could use. Tests that would catch CA before families got to a crisis, before any parent ever had to watch their baby's lips go white on a train. Voss was still reading. Your family's foundation denied him. You helped set the criteria that made his grant ineligible. Saving children in poor communities didn't show strong enough commercial returns. The marble floor seemed to expand around them. I didn't know, Voss whispered. I swear to God I didn't know it was his grant specifically. I set the criteria, my team reviews the applications. I didn't. I know you didn't know. Zara's voice wasn't angry. It was something harder and clearer than anger. That's the whole point. You set the criteria. You decided what counted as worth funding. You decided poor communities weren't a viable market. And then you went home and didn't think about it again. She paused. The same way you didn't think about Eli's medication schedule. The same way you didn't think about the little girl in seat 4. I'm sorry. Voss was shaking. I am so sorry. Your father, Eli, you, all of it. Zara looked at her for a long moment, measured and clear. Then she said the line that would be quoted in 7 languages before the week was out. I don't need you to be sorry. I need you to be different. Sit on your committee and look at the next funding application from a researcher at a public hospital and think about my dad's face. Vote on the next children's health bill and think about Eli's lips going white. Zara's voice was steady and unhurried. Fund the research that saves lives, not just the research that sells products. Look at every kid your policies touch and see an actual human being instead of a line in a budget. She picked up her backpack. And Congresswoman, go learn what CA means. Tonight. Learn his medication schedule. Learn the warning signs of an adrenal crisis. Not because a camera is on you, because he's your son. She started to walk away, then stopped once more. Be his mother, not his nanny's employer. His mother. Zara walked away. Dr. Okafor fell into step beside her. Behind them, Diana Voss stood in the light of the great hall holding a 4-year-old rejection letter and didn't try to wipe the tears off her face. 2 hours later, Comer Children's Hospital, University of Chicago. A room full of reporters. The Pediatric Endocrinology Conference banner on the wall. Dr. Okafor on Zara's left. Damon Reed on her right. Zara looked out at the room and adjusted the microphone. I'm not here to talk about the train, she said. I'm here to talk about the thousands of children who die every year from treatable diseases because they were born into zip codes that couldn't afford the treatment. The room went quiet. I'm here to talk about why a condition like CA, which is manageable with a daily medication that costs less than a cup of coffee, becomes fatal in families who can't access a specialist. About why my father spent the last months of his life trying to build something affordable and accessible and was told it wasn't worth the investment. She paused. My father believed that if you had knowledge, you had a responsibility to use it. That medicine was not a commodity, that a child in a rural county deserved the same chance as a child in a private clinic on the North Shore. I am standing here because I was raised to believe the same thing, and I refuse to stop believing it because it isn't profitable. A reporter raised her hand. Zara, do you blame Congresswoman Voss for your father's death? Zara considered this carefully. I blame a system that lets funding decisions be made by profit motive instead of human need. Congresswoman Voss operated inside that system. So did every board member, every grant committee, every politician who ever said we can't afford this while approving a pharmaceutical patent. She paused. What I know is that she has a choice now. She can go back to Washington and vote the way she always has, or she can be different. That same choice is in front of all of us. What do you want people to carry out of this? Zara looked directly into the nearest camera. That expertise doesn't have a dress code. That intelligence isn't something you inherit. That the kid sitting next to you on the train, the one who looks too young, too small, too out of place, might be the only person in the room who knows how to save your life. She let that land. And that every time we dismiss someone based on what we see before we listen to what they know, we lose something we never get back. The room erupted. 3 days later, Northwestern Memorial Hospital discharged Eli Voss from the pediatric ICU. Diana Voss carried him out in her arms. She looked exhausted, changed in a way that cameras can't fully capture. In her tote bag, a 40-page binder, tabbed, highlighted, annotated in her own handwriting, his full medical history, medication schedule, emergency protocols, warning signs. The hospital's CA team had walked her through every page, twice. The photo that went viral wasn't from the hospital steps. It was from the research wing 2 hours before discharge. Voss, sitting at a conference table with the hospital's research director writing a check, $7 million. The caption she posted herself, the Marcus Coleman Memorial Research Grant, funding affordable diagnostic screening for rare pediatric metabolic disorders in underserved communities. This should have been funded 4 years ago. I'm sorry it wasn't. It will be now. When a reporter asked whether she'd vote differently on the upcoming Children's Health Appropriations Act, she said, I've been voting wrong for a long time. I'm going to fix it. Her conservative donors started pulling funding within 48 hours. She didn't call any of them back. Meanwhile, in Denver, Renee Coleman was on the couch in their apartment in the Cole neighborhood, watching the Channel 9 coverage with a dish towel still in her hand from doing the dishes when her phone rang. Unknown number. Chicago area code. Miss Coleman, this is Dr. Simone Okafor Comer Children's Hospital. Yes, Renee's voice went careful. I'm calling about Zara's Young Scholars Award. I also want to speak with you directly about something else, a pediatric research nursing specialist position we'd like to offer you. Full relocation assistance to Chicago, benefits, a salary that I believe would allow you to stop working double shifts. Renee sat very still. We'd like to fix that, Dr. Okafor said simply. Renee dropped the dish towel. Then she laughed. Then she cried. Then she laughed again the way you only can when something impossible decides to be real. Yes, she said. Yes, absolutely yes. In her hotel room, 2 miles away, Zara stood at the window looking out at Lake Michigan, dark blue and enormous nothing, like the creek that ran behind their old neighborhood, and held her father's journal. She opened the cover. The answer is always in the details. Z. We did it, Dad, she whispered. We got Eli. We got him. She'd been told all her life that there was an order to things, that certain rooms had certain people in them, that the question of who belonged where was already answered before you walked in. Her father had never believed that. He'd walked into every wrong room and made it right by the quality of his work. She was going to do the same. She closed the journal, set it carefully in her backpack beside the scholarship letter and the research papers. Outside, Chicago gleamed. 6 months after the train, the Marcus Coleman Memorial Research Grant funded its first 4 projects. One of them, a partnership between University of Chicago Medicine and a West Side Community Health Center, developed a rapid screening protocol for adrenal insufficiency in infants, deployable in any primary care setting. No specialist required. Cost to manufacture $18 per test. In its first 6 months of use, the protocol identified 61 infants who would otherwise have waited for a crisis to get a diagnosis. 61 children who went home with a medication schedule instead of a critical care admission. Dr. Marcus Coleman had designed the framework for that protocol. He'd written it up in a grant application 4 years ago. His daughter carried it over the finish line. February of the following year, Washington, D.C. Zara Coleman, 13, now sat at a long table in the Russell Senate office building, still small, still wearing her father's jacket, the journal in her bag. She'd been given 10 minutes before the House Appropriations Subcommittee on Health. She used every second. Members of the committee, I am here to speak in support of the Children's Health Access and Research Investment Act. This legislation expands Medicaid eligibility for children under 5 funds, public hospital research programs in underserved counties, and creates a grant pathway for affordable diagnostic technology. Exactly the kind of research my father needed and never received. She looked up from her prepared remarks. Some of you will say we cannot afford it. I want to be precise about what that argument actually means. It means we have decided that a child born in a rural county with no pediatric specialist nearby is worth less than a child born into a private practice. It means the cost of preventable death is acceptable as long as it is someone else's children doing the dying. Silence. My father died at 41. He could have lived another 40 years, could have built the thing that would have saved thousands of kids. But he's gone because the system valued patent returns over his life. She paused. I'm asking you, please, to be different. When she finished, the room was still. Then Congresswoman Diana Voss, who had shocked her own party by co-sponsoring the bill, said, "Thank you, Miss Coleman. My vote is yes. The bill passed." 71 to 29. The president signed it into law 19 days later, September of that year. Zara walked through the halls of Comer Children's Hospital in a white coat with her name embroidered on the breast pocket. Zara N. Coleman Jr. Medical Researcher, 13 years old, the youngest researcher the department had ever admitted. Patients stopped and stared. One resident, 3rd year, probably 26, did a full double take. Wait, are you the train kid? Zara smiled. I'm just a researcher. She walked into her lab. Doctor. Okafor was waiting. Ready, Zara set her backpack on the desk, pulled out the journal, set it where she could see it. I already started. The following January, Eli Voss turned 1. No cameras, no press release. Just Diana and Eli, a small cake with a single candle and a quiet morning in their Chicago apartment. On the wall of the living room, framed, hung a photo of Eli and Zara taken at Northwestern 6 months earlier. Eli sitting up and grinning. Enormous Zara holding him with both arms and looking at him with something that could only be called love. Beneath the photo, a card in Zara's careful printing. Dear Eli, your life matters, not because of your mother's title or your family's money, because you are you. Don't ever let anyone convince you otherwise. Zara. Diana read it every morning. It reminded her of what she had almost let happen and what she had been given entirely undeserved the chance to become. The video from the train has now been seen 52 million times. It spawned a documentary. Zara declined to participate. A children's book followed, The Girl Who Knew, written by Renee Coleman. Proceeds fund medical scholarships for young researchers from underserved communities. 14 states changed their pediatric Medicaid protocols in the year following the bill's passage. The Marcus Coleman screening test is now in use at community health centers in 22 states. 61 children, identified in the first 6 months. And counting. But here is what all of that adds up to. A 12-year-old black girl from Denver was told loudly, publicly, with full audience participation that she didn't belong. That her credentials were invented. That her father's work wasn't worth funding. That the room she was in was not hers. And the world came very close to listening. The margin between Eli Voss dying on that train and Eli Voss living was 8 minutes. Those 8 minutes only existed because one girl refused to be smaller than she was. How many Zaras are out there right now on trains, in classrooms, in waiting rooms, in grant application, piles being told they don't fit, being told their work isn't commercially viable, being told they're too young, too poor, too something. How many diagnoses aren't being made? How many protocols aren't being written? How many lives aren't being saved because we sorted people by surface before we ever asked what they knew? Zara's father fought that sorting his whole life. He lost to it. His daughter won. Not just for Eli, not just for herself, for every brilliant, overlooked person who has ever been handed a rejection that wasn't really about their work at all. The next time you see someone who doesn't look like they fit where they are, pause. Ask yourself what you actually know about them, not what you assume, what you know. And if you have any power at all, a vote, a hire, a seat on a committee, a pen over a check, spend it on people. The returns take longer to show up on a spreadsheet. But they show up. They show up in 61 children who went home healthy. They show up in a 13-year-old in a white coat. They show up in a little boy who got to blow out his first birthday candle. Share this story if it moved you. Subscribe and stay with us. We tell stories like this every single week because the world is full of them and most of them go untold. Never underestimate anyone. You never know who might save your life.